Hey, howdy, hey, folks. It is Mrs. Johnson with the Accurate Wisdom Channel. I'm so excited for this chapter. We're, so close to being done with this book. We're doing... Oh, I guess I should have said that first. We are doing, FFA Lullabies, Cattle Country, Peter French. Again. There's, thousands of videos on this book at this point. By me. By Giles French, who's not related. And I'm getting pretty sleepy, so my energy's kind of all over the place, but we got 2 chapters left. 2 chapters left. We're gonna finish this thing today. Yeah. Okay. I'm on page 151 in my book. Murder on Sagebrush Flat. Dun, dun, dun. We just found out that Peter French was an unhappy guy because we found out about his wife and the court stuff. How the company got land revoked and given to the settlers, and how everyone else in the livestock company basically told him, no, you don't get to control the thing that you've controlled for 25 years because we want to do it now. So everyone's pretty grumpy. The homesteaders are pretty grumpy. He's pretty grumpy. Anyway, dun dun dun. We're going to read Murder on Sagebrush Flat. Peter French returned from a business trip to Chicago on Christmas Day of 1897. In Burns, he had Mark Brennan at the livery stable hook his team onto the buckboard, which was loaded with gifts he had brought for the children of his crew. He then drove directly to the Sod House Ranch. That night, there was a Christmas party, with all the children happy over the holiday and the men and women in festive mood. Chino Berdugo, boss of the drive that was to start the next day, had fallen ill. French directed him to take the buckboard and team and go on to the P Ranch, where he could rest until he felt better. On the morning of December 26th, French took Chino's horse and assumed the role of boss of the crew. Finding the horse a little slow, he stopped and cut a rod of willow, with which to aid his spurs. Later, he attached a string of buckskin to the willow to make a whip for urging cattle on. They moved slowly in the cold weather of the winter day. As they approached the gate of the big sagebrush field, French rode around the cattle to open the gate. Throwing it back and remounting, he entered the field so that the cattle would follow. Suddenly, he saw Ed Oliver ride out of a swell with his horse at a gallop. Oliver headed straight for French and charged full tilt. The horses clashed together so hard that French's mount went to its knees. French struck Oliver's hurt horse over the head in an effort to fend Oliver off. According to Emerald Clark, one of French's riders, the man nearest the scene, Oliver charged French again, and French then struck him over the head and shoulders with his willow whip. Oliver pulled his gun from his waistband and waved it. French rode a few yards away, then looked back. As he did so, Oliver fired, hitting the boss of the P Ranch in the right cheek. The bullet passed through French's head to emerge behind his left ear. He was killed instantly. Oliver rode past his body, which lay on the ground, and headed west at a fast clip. He likely feared vengeance from the French crew. There was no danger. The men were shocked by the sudden death of their friend and leader, but they were unarmed. Some wept, and a few warned others not to touch the body till the coroner arrived. The body was merely covered with some remnants of saddle blankets until night, where Andrea Littrell, who lived at the sod house, brought a tent to place over the body. The murder occurred about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The coroner, T.W. Steffens, came the next day to take charge of the body. After the coroner had made his observations, Mark Brenton took the remains to the upstairs living quarters of Leon Brown of Burns, a longtime friend of French. There, above the round store, Dr. W.L. Marsden conducted his examination, which resulted in his testimony to the jury. Dr. Marsden, an old friend and admirer of French, removed the brain from the skull and weighed it. It came to 64 ounces, one of the largest brains ever put on scales. The bullet had entered the right side of the face, coursing through the brain in a slightly upward and backward direction. On December 28, Martin Brenton and Bert French, the brother of the murdered man, started by team for Baker City, with the body in a zinc-lined box. There the body was embalmed and shipped by Wells Fargo Express to Red Bluff, California. The funeral was held on January 4th, 1898 in Red Bluff, followed by interment in the Oak Hill Cemetery there, where French's father and mother were buried. The stone column that marks his grave bears only the name Peter French and the dates of his birth and death. I keep moving stuff, I'm so sorry. Dave Grow, a writer for the P Ranch, had witnessed the murder. Within minutes, he started for Winnemucca to notify the world that probably its best cowman had been killed. He rode first to the P Ranch to change horses, then headed out over the trail south that led through fields and at the lower end of the Steens. Crow changed horses 9 times during the trip, commandeering a new mount when the one he was riding tired and a new one was available. He reached Winnemucca in 43 hours without resting. Meanwhile, a coroner's jury had convened at the Sod House Ranch and found that Peter met death from gunshot wounds inflicted by Ed L. Oliver. Newspapers gave some generous space to the killing of this well-known man, but some of the stories were distorted because of the scant information. The Burns paper, which had seldom spoken favorably of French, covered the murder in a few words on an inside page. This was a forerunner of caution with which many Harney County residents still discuss the killing of Peter French. After nearly 3/4 of a century, it still remains a controversial subject, and information about it is colored by the individual prejudice of the teller. The Burns newspaper defended the county against a charge by the Oregonian that the $10,000 bail for Oliver had been set too low, adding that local sentiment seemed to favor the culprit. Indictment of Oliver was made on a charge filed by Bert French, and bail was furnished by Fred Lunaburg, Burns merchant, H.B. Siemens, Narrows farmer, N.J. Siemens, Narrows farmer, A.S. Word, Smith farmer, H.M. Horton, Burns druggist, W.D. Huffman, Diamond farmer, and J.B. Craig, Riley farmer. Oliver had a short police record, having been arrested once in Harney County on October 29, 1894, when he was charged with assault with a dangerous weapon, a long-handled shovel, and with beating one Samuel Handy with said shovel by striking him in and upon the body and limbs. The indictment was declared faulty and was dismissed, but another indictment followed. Then Oliver's attorney filed a demurrer, and the case was dropped. Ed Oliver's original indictment for the murder of Peter French was dropped the day before the trial, probably by some agreement between the attorneys. On May 18th, Oliver was charged with manslaughter. Possibly the district attorney, Charles W. Parrish, felt more confident of winning the lighter charge. Oliver's trial began on May 19, 1898, at Burns. Money had been raised for his defense from among those who were glad that French was gone. The directing defense attorney was Lionel R. Webster, who had defended Elvis Springer the year before. Webster had previously been a member of the firm of Carney, Idleman, Mays, and Webster of Portland until that firm dissolved and Idleman and Webster became partners. Emmanuel Clark, was the opening witness for the prosecution. He testified that Oliver's horse ran into French's. French motioned with his whip as if directing Oliver to leave the property. He stated that French then rode westward with Oliver following, that Oliver raised his right arm and lowered it, raised it again, and fired. Dave Crow testified that he saw the shooting, saw the men come together, watched while French tried to drive Oliver away. He also stated that French turned west with Oliver following. Prim Ortega, who had been with French since 1877, likewise witnessed the murder. He had been about 200 yards away and described the scene much as did Crow and Clark. French's younger brother Bert stated that he too saw Peter open the gate and ride away from it, saw Oliver gallop up to him and refuse to turn back when ordered to do so. He called that Peter said, "I will drive you off," and that Oliver reached for a pistol as his brother rode away. According to Bert French, Oliver snapped the pistol and my brother turned his head, and Oliver fired again and my brother fell. He did not see his brother strike Oliver. Sheriff John McKinnon testified that he had arrested Ed Oliver on December 27th at Mrs. Simmons' place and that Oliver had the pistol at the house. He had it in his waistband. I asked him for it and he gave it to me, saying it was the one he used. Andrea Littrell saw the pockets of the dead man examined and reported that there was no weapons. Dr. Walter L. Martson testified about the wound and about the clothing worn by French, which included a heavy overcoat buttoned except for the top button, a broad belt buckled over the overcoat, gloves, overshoes, and a scarf about the neck. He also testified that there was no weapons on the body, except a small, unopened pocket knife. Webster, for the defense, was a more experienced lawyer than Parrish, and surely more informed about the human race. Like Jackson Hatch, when he defended Herman Miller for the murder of Dr. Glenn, Webster built a case around fear of bodily injury as a reason for the murder. In neither trial was there any doubt of the murderer. Both acts had been done in broad daylight and before witnesses. Webster prepared his case from the testimony of men who swore that French had abused Oliver with threats over a period of time. He clearly intimated that Oliver feared the big landowner, and Parrish failed to counter with what the easily proved fact that Oliver's fears did not keep him from trespassing on French Glen property, nor from meeting with leaders among the settlers who wanted French destroyed. There was no reference to the oft-repeated story that 3 or 4 men met and agreed that French must be killed, and drew straws to see who would do it. Now Oliver agreed to substitute for the man who drew the fatal straw, but lost his nerve. During her testimony, Mrs. Ed Oliver said that the family had been up late Christmas night and had slept later than usual the next morning, breakfast having been eaten around 10 o'clock. Her husband had left the house about 1 o'clock to tend the cattle, returning home around sundown. The sheriff had come the following day. Just about 1 hour after Ed left his house, Peter French was dead. His partner, Hugh Glenn, had been struck down at the same hour, just 14 years before. The defense tried to prove that French carried a large stick with which to hit Oliver, but anyone reading the notes of the county clerk taken at the trial would not have been impressed with the quality of that evidence. During his turn on the stand, Oliver said that he had lived at Rockford 9 years and owned no land in dispute with the French Glen Company. He testified that he left home on December 26th at about 11 o'clock, went to George Cuttis's, stayed there until after dinner, and then started for Rockford and his place. He thus contradicted his wife's testimony. He also denied having knowledge of French's return from Chicago. According to Oliver, French carried a stick, which she feared was a whipstick, and began beating him with it. He declared that French said, "I'll kill you," and reached for a gun. At that moment, Oliver said he jerked his own pistol and fired as quickly as possible, afraid that French would kill him. Excuse me. At the end of the trial, Attorney Webster had called on all of his abilities, in which his case was considerable. During his plea to the jury, he had Mrs. Oliver, with her youngest child in her arms, sit before the jurymen, while he tearfully described what a fine husband and father Oliver was. What a crime it would be to divide this happy family, which the brave defendant had risked his life to preserve. The jury was out only 3 hours. At 7 o'clock, in the dusk of a late May evening, the foreman announced a verdict of not guilty. In death, as in life, Peter French lost to the settlers in the court of law. Ah, dang. Wasn't expecting that. Anyway, we've got one more chapter left. I'm gonna read it. You should read it too. But this video is already like 16 minutes long, so I'm gonna cut it here. If you want to go to bed, let's go to bed. Go on, get. Go to bed. If not, like, subscribe, do the things, jump onto the next video, last video, the FFA Lullabies channel, or playlist, whatever you want, but take care of yourself to the best of your ability, eat to the best of your ability, sleep to the best of your ability, all the things. I like doing these videos because I get to remind you to do the things. And also, please don't be mean to yourself if it's really hard to do that. Because I'm recording these like 4 days late, guys. And I love reading before bed. It makes me so cozy and amazing. But here I am, late, okay? You're not the only one, I promise. Okay? But in the meantime, go to bed, get some sleep, eat some food, and listen to some good stories, okay? Bye. We'll see you on the next one. For the last chapter. You better see me on the last chapter, guys. It's the last chapter. We gotta figure out what happens. Okay, bye.